Hi, my name is Ann Castee, and I'm a member of the Minnesota Library Association's Intellectual Freedom Committee. I'm here today just to show you the resources that we have posted as a committee on the MLA website. These resources are to help people before, during, after a challenge, and to help with ongoing advocacy and how you can stay current. Our resources are for anyone, they're not just for MLA members. And I want to welcome you to take any of the things that you'll see on this site and use them in any way that's helpful to you. So that's what I'm going to show you right now. So under our advocacy section on our MLA website, you can go to Book Challenge Resources. We made this in Wakelet. This is an open access website maker where you can kind of bring different bookmarks together. So these are the resources. We have 4 columns. So for before a challenge, these are the things that you should know. In Minnesota, of course, we want you to be very aware of the statute to protect library materials. 134.51, it protects against any kind of removal of a book from the library without it having gone through a proper procedure that's led and guided by a professional librarian. So that's the statute. We just have it handy there for anyone to access. And then we also have links to the recommended MSBA, Minnesota School Board Association, school board policies related to library materials. If a challenge occurs in your district to a library material, it's very important that you have policies and procedures in place to address the challenge. And this is the recommended recommended policy collection from the School Board Association. And the MLA IFC thinks it's very, very useful and good. So we recommend that one. Okay, so then if an informal challenge occurs, if someone just walks up to you and says they don't like a book, but they haven't officially filed a complaint, here's some ideas that you can pursue. One of the things is we have created a challenge support form for the Minnesota libraries. Anyone who works in a Minnesota library who's encountered some kind of intellectual freedom challenge, and this can be to displays, that's not covered by 134.51, but if you are experiencing a challenge to a book display or some kind of other intellectual freedom challenge that maybe doesn't fit tightly into a box and you don't know what to do, you can use our contact form and we will read your response confidentially, and then we'll ask you, okay, who can we share it with? Would you like to be in touch with other people? How can we help you at least connect to some ideas of how to answer this question? Also, it's just nice for us to know different challenges that occur around the state. The only ones that get reported in the 134.51 challenge reporting form are those challenges that have been completed and have gone through a formal process. So it's kind of an autopsy type of report. If you report it to us here on this form, we will at least be aware of a challenge that's ongoing or just kind of in your world that hasn't formally been reported. So it's really good for us to know so we can support and report. The next thing we have is the ALA reporting form. We don't want to make you go through a million reporting forms. So the form I just mentioned, the Minnesota one, is really just, hey, I want some help. I want to talk about this with somebody. This one, the ALA one, is to report formally that you have a challenge to the American Library Association, which is the official collector of these statistics. And it doesn't have to be a formal challenge. It can be any kind of challenge that you've experienced in your library. Even just someone talking to you about a book can be reported on this form. So it doesn't have to be anything fancy to go onto the ALA reporting form. We want to hear about everything that's happening. Some of those more gentle approaches to book banning are just as important, insidious as the more bold ones. So we also have a link to the ALA and Intellectual Freedom Committee's book resumes collection. They have so many resources to fight book bans, mainly in schools, but they work for public libraries as well. Book resumes answer common challenges to commonly known titles. So if there's a passage that people like to read out of a book that particularly offends them, a book resume might address how that passage is relevant to the rest of the context of the book. book and things like that. So it can be very helpful to equip you in addressing a challenge that occurs on a specific book. And then also some talking points about why intellectual freedom matters. It can be hard to talk to people about why you would have a book that has a scene that someone finds offensive in your school library or in the youth section of your library. So it's important to know how to discuss the key elements of intellectual freedom and why it matters, why we should see all voices and all sides in our libraries, and why we don't need to be scared of different perspectives and different approaches to life. So just some ideas for you to kind of read over if you're kind of thinking about how can I be ready? I know this is coming eventually in my library, or you just want to refresh yourself. Those are good resources. When a formal challenge occurs, here is the reporting form for the Minnesota Libraries Material Challenge. This is part of the law, but it's separate. It's the reporting form where you can report, hey, we went through the process and here's what happened. So that's for Minnesota libraries, just to remind you that's out there, and we monitor that. State Library Services monitors that, and we make sure that all those reports also get reported to the American Library Association. So please, if you have gone through the official process, please definitely submit your report there. This is also just a link to contact the Intellectual Freedom Committee again, so that we know what's happening, so that we can support you in any way possible. Lastly, on the ongoing advocacy column, we have consider joining MLA, but if you're in another state, consider joining your state library association, because the State Library Association is working hard to protect intellectual freedom in libraries and all library issues. So it is money out of your pocket sometimes to join your state professional organization, but it's for a cause you believe in, and there are people who are working really hard to advocate for these issues. So it's not just for you professionally, it's also for the larger cause of libraries and intellectual freedom to join your state professional organization. Also, we keep a modern news kind of board where we kind of tag any updates that are relevant to Minnesota libraries, and we're doing that on a Notion board. So if you click on this link here, you'll see we have this board where we just tag in our browser. If we find any articles that are relevant to Minnesota intellectual freedom, we tag them, and this is available on the board. And then we put that out to our membership every month to say, hey, there's this board out there of any news related to intellectual freedom in Minnesota, just to kind of keep us all informed, because so many times these things can happen and we don't know about each other's little intellectual freedom challenges that don't blow up. It's nice if we have many avenues for sharing the information with each other to keep in communication and conversation about everything that's happening. And then also follow Unite Against Book Bans, because they are really the center of all of our work. They're kind of the ALA's arm of how to approach these issues, current and updated materials for fighting the issues, and having talking points for how to handle them. So that's our resource on the Minnesota Library Association's website. Thank you for listening.